Hi, everybody that's already on. Thanks for joining. We're going to give everybody just a minute or so here to hop in, and then we'll get started. All right, it is 11:01. We will just go ahead and get started. We don't want to take up too much of your lunch hour today. So thanks for joining us. My name is Melissa Knibb. I am the Director of Physician Careers and Partnership Development here at Resolve. And then also presenting with us today is Courtney Ickby. She is our COO. We hope this webinar gives you a good overview of what to expect throughout the job search process as a J1. And at the end, we're also going to provide you or show you some free resources that we have to provide you as a physician. So today's webinar will be directed towards the 2022-2023 cycle, as in finishing your training in June of 2023. So I am going to hand it off to Courtney, who will get us started.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. And thanks, Melissa, for the introduction. So yeah, just kind of like Melissa said, we are going to talk about the 2023 cycle. So I know many of you may be finishing in 2024, 2025, but for the purpose of this and to keep it very straightforward, we're only going to reference the 2023 cycle. So with that being said, we always recommend starting the job search process early when you're needing a J1 waiver. So much of this is state specific and timing. So we typically recommend at least 18 to 24 months out. So honestly, if you're a 2024 graduate, you're really not too far behind, or not too early, sorry. So with that being said, anyone that's on the webinar right now, currently finishing in 2023, ideally you would be very deep into the interview process. So you would be interviewing, you would potentially maybe have offers. If you don't, certainly don't be alarmed. It's not the end of the world, but this is definitely the time for you to start the process, to be interviewing, and hopefully, if you can, it's ideal to sign a contract by October, which is just right around the corner in a couple of months. So September or October is kind of the goal. So with that being said, I will kind of explain what Conrad 30 is. So the main process that most people go through whenever they're trying to obtain a waiver is the Conrad 30 process. And so what that is it's a program that was designed to fill the primary care shortage problem in the US for rural locations. And so every single state gets 30 waivers that they're able to give out. And that is not specialty specific. It's just 30 waivers for the entire state. And that includes all specialties. So primary care and specialist. Most states do, just by nature of the program, prioritize primary care over specialty spots. However, the program does allow specialists to apply in most states. The exception would be California. They are not super specialist friendly. So if you're a specialist and you want to be in California, we typically recommend taking that off your list, unfortunately. Melissa is somebody that has been helping J1s find jobs for over 8 to 10 years now, I think. So she is very well versed in this. So I will let her go into more detail about how to go about finding these jobs.
Thanks. I also meant to mention at the beginning, we do have a Q&A feature there at the bottom. And so feel free to, if a question pops up, go ahead and put it in the Q&A box, and Courtney and I will answer as many questions as we can here at the end. So please feel free to do that. So yeah, as Courtney said, I have been through the whole J1 cycle many, many times. So number one on here is just, we can't stress this enough to start your job search early. So each fiscal year, the Conrad 30 program will reset in October. There are a few exceptions. Georgia, for instance, has the past couple of years started opening for applications in August. And then there are actually probably 7 to 8 states that open for applications in September now. The only state that you should be concerned with is Texas. Texas is open the first 2 weeks of September, and typically they do fill all 30 spots in September. So if you want Texas, if you're 2024, start searching now. Texas is pretty competitive. So other than that, there's one other oddball state that has just been kind of unpredictable with open dates, and that's Ohio. So I encourage you, as if you have any questions with states, always go to their Department of Health website online. You should be able to get your questions answered there, and most of them have a contact that you can reach out to that is very helpful as well. Number two, how do I determine if an employer is J1 eligible? What I would suggest you do is go to hrsa.gov. They actually have a space on their website where you can type in the physical address of where you would be working, and it's going to generate multiple data points for you. So it's going to tell you if it's medically underserved, it's going to give you the HPSA score, and it's also going to give you a couple of other factors. So use hrsa.gov. I actually included the specific link with that address box in the follow-up email that you will get from us after this webinar. So check out that link, but then also I would encourage you, as you start talking to employers, even in your initial conversations, setting up a phone interview, and especially on your phone interview, just talk about being a J1. The person that you're talking to, the in-house recruiter, whoever it might be, should be able to provide you details on that before you start moving forward with the whole interview process, just to make sure that it is going to work out. Because just because a place is J1 eligible doesn't mean that you will 100% be able to work there. And that's for multiple reasons. So number three, what employer types typically support waivers? This is also kind of a loaded question, and there's a lot of answers here, but I would say, probably the most common is going to be hospital employed positions, academics. We used to search for academics quite often for J1s, and they can definitely support you. They're probably going to be a little bit slower in their hiring process, and so that just tends to be a little bit tougher because we all know how sensitive the timeline is for J1s, right? So keep that in mind. Private practice can also support. It's just that, again, they might be less experienced in the process and not have quite as many resources that our larger hospital systems do. If you are a primary care physician, I would encourage you to also look into the FQHCs, the federally qualified health centers. Those are going to be able to support a primary care position as well for J1s. The last three, unposted jobs, networking, and full contacts and job boards, that's referring to how do I search as a J1? Where do I start? And we always tell people, don't just focus on the job boards. The jobs that are posted out there probably only account for about 25 to 30% of the jobs that are hiring. So don't just focus on job boards, but a couple of tips as a J1, good job boards to look at would be like 3RNet. Another, the HRSA.gov that I talked about earlier, they also have a pretty good J1 job board. So check those out. And then some of the more frequent job boards that you search, they actually have like J1 job filters that you can use, but not all job boards do. What I would, we always encourage you to, network within your program, reach out to your mentors, network through your professional societies. And if you have a specific area that you want to be in, um, you know, you're going to have to do some research, look into the organizations, find a hiring contact and reach out to them, tell them who you are, what you're looking for, send them your CV. And you would be surprised, again, there are so many jobs that are unposted. So don't hesitate. Don't be scared to reach out and just say like, hey, here's who I am. Here's my CV. Are you hiring? The worst they can say is no. So let's see, next up. So this is a screenshot of our J1 map. This is something that we keep updated and have for years. Unfortunately, there is not one place that you can go online to see where they're at with in the Conrad 30 process. So what we try to do here is give you a snapshot view of what states are still open and accepting applications for this fiscal year. As you can see right now, Georgia is actually the only state that would be open for the 2023 fiscal year. Some other tabs on this map are going to be like ARC, which actually I'll get into in the next couple of slides, but it's ARC and DRA, and those are specific states and counties, but you can click on those to see what states and what counties those waivers would be eligible for. Back to the Conrad 30 that Court's already on. If you click on Texas, for example, we actually have some more detailed notes below the state that is going to just give you some more state specific details and guidelines. If you want to scroll down a little bit, Court, I don't know if that's working for you or not. But there's going to be like some state specific details on this map that, give you specific open and closing dates. Might talk about like if they have specialist restrictions, things of that sort. And this map is actually part of our free membership, which again, Court will talk about at the end. So this is something that we want to provide to all J1s out there if we can.
Yeah, and I can show the actual map. This is just a screenshot.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yeah. We'll show you that here in a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Waiver types. So we talk about the Conrad 30 a lot because it's probably it's the most common waiver out there. Again, it was designed for primary care, but also allows specialists. Courtney had mentioned California, they're one that is pretty restrictive in their specialists, but honestly, most of the other states are pretty specialist friendly. So that is positive. You might ask what other types of waivers, what other waiver options do I have besides Conrad 30? These are 6 that we commonly would get requests to search for or are more common. So there's HHS. This is actually primary care only, but it is a very, very common waiver. They had changed some of their restrictions a couple of years ago to where it really opened up for a lot more physicians. So I would encourage you to look into that. If you are primary care, a lot of hospitals and private practice can actually support you using an HHS now. The next 2 are the ones that we actually had tabs for on our map, and that is DRA, which is Delta Regional Authority, and that encompasses 8 states. But again, those are they're specific counties within those 8 states. The ARC is Appalachian Regional Commission, and it is 13 states, but again, specific counties within those states. The nice thing about both of those options are they're open to primary care and specialists. They don't have any sort of cap like the 30 with the Conrad 30. They can, they're unlimited, and there's no hard deadlines. So those are for sure pros of both of those. Then you have your O1 waiver, the Veterans Affairs, like the VA hospitals, they're their own waiver as well. And then last is a national interest waiver. So those are some other options outside of the Conrad 30. Processing timelines. So this is something very important to keep in mind. Courtney kind of hit on in the beginning whenever she started talking about timelines. From the total time that you start searching for your job until you have your final approval at USCIS, it's might be anywhere from 1 to 1.5 years. So it's quite a lengthy process. This waiver timeline right here is talking about from the moment that you, well, actually, I guess we do have job search in there. It could take 5 to 7 months, but then from the moment you sign a contract, typically most immigration attorneys are going to say that they want at least 30 days to prepare your waiver application to submit to the Department of Health. And so, roughly 30 days for that time frame. The Department of Health, we don't have a timeline down there because it greatly varies per state. And again, I would strongly encourage you to ask these questions as you're interviewing and go to the Department of Health website, because some might be days, some might be 2 to 4 weeks, whereas there's a few states that it might be 3 to 4 months. So it varies drastically there. And then once you get approval at the Department of Health, you really just kind of got to go through the process. The odds of your waiver being denied after it's approved at the Department of Health are very, very low. But it still has to go through the Department of State and then through USCIS, which can take, again, anywhere from like 2 to 4 months. So always just stay in touch with your immigration attorney. They should be able to update you throughout that whole process. So.
Melissa, we also had a question on explaining the HHS waiver. It did come before you mentioned that part. Is there anything else you want to add on the HHS waiver?
So the HHS waiver, I'll kind of give you the specifics of what facilities can support that. So basically what it says is any facility such as a hospital or private practice can apply for an HHS waiver if they have an HPSA score of at least 7 and the physician will provide primary care treatment. So again, go to that hrsa.org and you'll be able to see what the employer's HPSA score is and if they're eligible for that. Talk to that employer about that type of waiver to see if they could support it. One other side note, like let's say you're wanting to practice primary care, but you've already done a fellowship, you can't have more than 1 year of fellowship training or you're ineligible for the HHS. So that's kind of one factor there.
Yeah, and with all of these, the HHS is just a nice option. So let's say you want to be in Texas and Texas has already closed. That's a great time to explore an HHS waiver as kind of an alternative to Conrad 30. So we mentioned these alternatives, but Conrad 30 is generally what you'll go through unless, for example, you want to be in a state that has already filled their spots or is no longer an employer that's no longer taking J1 positions. So like, for example, there are employers who are only allotted 3 waivers for their whole hospital. Well, if they've already given out 3 Conrad 30 waivers, then a workaround could potentially be like an HHS waiver. So those are kind of some examples of why you might need those alternative options. So we'll dive into the rest of the questions. Feel free to keep them coming in. We're happy to answer any we can. And I'll kind of show you some of the stuff and resources that we have, the J1 map in a little more detail, just so you guys can see some things that we provide to just help you through this process and provide you some resources. So let me jump into our site. So the J1 map that Melissa already referenced, once you become a free user, it takes less than 5 seconds to create a free account. So once you become a free user, you have this J1 map section right in your dashboard. And what's nice is you can click in here and see really what's going on with the 2023 cycle. So this currently is the state of the cycle. As Melissa mentioned, these darker blue states are currently not open. Georgia is open, and you can see this number 6 means they currently have 6 active applications that they've received. And then what's nice is that you can click into the state, and we also have some tips and just details of things that happen with Texas. So for instance, this year, their open date is September 6th. That always changes every year. So on September 6th, that means you can submit your applications to the state. And then this is their closing deadline this year. So you have to have that Texas app in by September 20th. This competition section just kind of includes, you know, any specialty specific limitations, who they typically give priority to. Again, some states have that, some states don't. It'll talk about flex, and then just give some, you know, again, tips. So it's highly competitive. They typically get over 30 applications within the first 2 weeks of September. And then the application fee is $3,000. So we'll continue to, and Melissa will be the one that does this. She'll continue to update this periodically. And so just check back here to see what the status is and how things are looking for the state you're in. And you can also call us. Again, Melissa has done this for a very long time. So feel free to call. We have a whole team of people that is very, you know, we're very experienced in the J1 process. So we can help walk you through any questions you might have in this map area too. Anything else you wanted to add about this spot, Melissa?
Nope, I think you covered it. Did you click over on the ARC and DRA real quick just to show them? Yep. So that will show you, the green shows you the states, and then if you scroll down, like if you, again, select Georgia or a state, if you scroll down, it'll actually tell you the counties. Yep. And then same with the DRA tab.
Yeah, so that's the J1 map. Again, this is something that is nowhere else. So it's taken us years to compile all of this information. It takes Melissa a lot of time to contact every single state department and to get it. So tell your friends about it. Come here, like this doesn't exist anywhere else. So we're pretty excited that this is something we can now give for free to any person that needs a J1 waiver at any point. So just a few other free resources we have. So I know many of you, if you're finishing in 2023, you may already have a contract, and you may be wondering, is my contract good? Am I being paid fairly? A lot of these things you feel pressure to sign quickly. I always tell people a J1 contract is one you absolutely need to have reviewed by an attorney. So keep in mind, you'll be provided an immigration attorney, but that is not someone that's working for you. That's somebody that's working for the employer. And so you want to get your own attorney representing you and your best interest. So a few things that we have just to kind of give you an idea, you know, if you're on a tight timeline and you just need to quickly see, is this a decent contract? Can I sign it? The scorecard feature is really nice. You go in here, you select your specialty. I just selected the first one, and you just pop in your salary and click show rating. And it's going to tell you that at 200,000, my salary actually needs negotiating. So it's below the median. I'll pop in a signing bonus here. And this is going to tell me where my signing bonus is. So this is average. Well, Now I'm kind of curious what's good. And you can pop in another number and see that 30,000 is actually where you should be for your signing bonus if you're allergy and immunology. And I just want to specify, because you're on a J1 waiver, you should not take a difference in pay. You shouldn't accept a lower salary, a lower signing bonus. So if you've heard that, I'm here to tell you that that is incorrect. We negotiate and we've had huge salary increases for physicians on a J1 waiver. So don't think because you're needing a waiver job that you have no leverage and that you have no opportunity to negotiate the contract, because you do. So again, the scorecard is great. You can see, you can literally enter every piece of your contract in here to see how it stacks up. And it's going to tell you exactly what needs to be negotiated and what looks good. The next piece that we're really excited about, this is actually brand new. We just launched a couple months ago. And so again, my specialty, allergy and immunology, I can go in here and see all the recent contracts for my specialty. So as you can see, these top 3 contracts all just came through last month. And you can see, again, with the free account, you can see the base, signing bonus, and relocation of, again, all recent contracts. You can see we have over 7 pages that you could click through. You can also support by, or select by region if you want to drill down on just your specific region of the country. And then you can also click verified contracts or not. I'll explain that in a minute. So again, this is all for free. If you decide you want to see more information, we do have a paid data package that does allow you to see every component of the contract, meaning like paid time off, malpractice type, non-compete, distance, non-compete time, CME credits, quality bonuses, productivity bonuses. So you can really get the full picture on exactly what is happening with your specialty. What's great about this R data and why it's unique is that it's live. So for instance, we have MGMA. MGMA is going to be the most nationally recognized physician comp survey that is out there. That's what most employers are going to use. But all of that data is based off of last year. And so you're getting data from 2021. Whereas like with our data, you're always going to know exactly what's happening with your specialty, because every time there's a new contract added, you will be able to see it. For somebody that is super subspecialized and there's just no MGMA data out there, we're also pushing crowdsourced data. So you can actually come in here and submit your information so that you and your colleagues can now anonymously see what's happening with your specialty. So there are a ton of subspecialists out there that MGMA has no data for. And so that's what we're trying to cover with this crowdsourced piece, is providing more data for those subspecialists. And then again, I just want to reiterate, all of that is free. So you take 5 seconds, create a user account, and you get the J1 map, you get our data, and then you also get the contract scorecard. Now, for somebody who may have a contract, just know that we do have paid contract packages too. So it kind of depends on your level of service. I'm not going to go into detail on that because this is not what the webinar is for, but just know if you need an attorney and you need a contract reviewed, we have one of the best teams in the country. We are endorsed by American College of Surgeons, by American College of Radiology. We come highly recommended, and we've been doing this for over 10 years. So when you come to us, you are truly getting the best legal team there is for physicians. And so we have something for everyone. So anyway, if you have any questions on these, we have multiple team members that can help you out with that. But I'm going to open it up for questions and go from there.
Yeah, I could take the first couple, Core. I already kind of read through them while you were talking. So the next question we have was, can academic centers like UCSF, UCLA, UC Davis sponsor J1 sponsor J1 waiver sponsorships? The answer is I'm not sure. I would need to go to their website. It's all very specific to what are you primary care, are you specialist? What actual physical location will you be working at? So that's what's kind of hard about, like I say, go to hrsa.gov and type in the physical address of the employer where you will be searching. Well, UCSF, UCLA, all of these huge, very large organizations, large employers have multiple locations, right? And so if that's where you need to be talking to the employer to see, where you would actually be working and if they can sponsor. So, I would kind of say get an immigration attorney involved, go to the hrsa.gov. If a job is posted online, try to see if they have any notes in there about, whether they can support a J1 or not. But, always talk to the in-house recruiter, the hiring manager, and most importantly, an immigration attorney. Courtney, I don't know if you have anything else to add there.
I was just going to say, overall, yes, academic centers can support waivers. So we can't speak to these three that you gave us specifically on whether or not they can, because it's all dependent. But yes, absolutely get a J1 waiver at an academic center. Actually, when we did job search in the past for clients, most or many of ours went academics. So
Yeah. Let's see. The next one was if a big physician-owned organization in California shows an interest, but they say they've never done a J1 waiver, they're mentioning that there's no guarantee that it could be done. Should you risk it? Again, I would say the first step there that I would take is find an immigration attorney. Find a trusted immigration attorney that you can talk to that can help you and the employer determine if they are eligible and if it can likely be done, and then you can move forward. I actually have an immigration attorney that we would refer clients to or recommend. In the past, we don't have one at Resolve. If you would like to send me an email, I'd be happy to share that contact information with you. And my email is just melissa@resolve.com. Let's see, can I ask for the HHS waiver if you do 1 year fellowship? Do you need to start work immediately once you finish the fellowship, or do you have to get approved? So if you are currently in a 1 year fellowship and you are wanting to apply for an HHS waiver, I feel like I'm on repeat here. I keep saying this, but like get an immigration attorney involved, because there is a little bit of leeway if you are currently in a 1 year fellowship and you're applying for HHS waiver. If it gets approved before you complete the 1 year fellowship, it is possible. But if you've already done a 1 year fellowship, you are ineligible for the HHS waiver. If I answered that question correctly or not. That's how I took it, Corey.
yeah, I don't believe, unless you can maybe confirm this, I don't believe that you have to start work immediately.
No, I think it's all just having the like contract and waiver application, part of it finalized and submitted. As far as like when you start working, as a J1, you might have everything submitted, everything finalized, and you're just waiting on like those last two steps in that timeline process, like for the state and the USCIS. Sometimes those just take longer than expected. And when you sign your contract, let's say you have a start date of August 1st, but everything's not finalized and you're not technically ready, all of that is usually the start date is usually pretty flexible, and they can edit that accordingly, like depending on if your waiver is still you're waiting for final approval.
I think this next question on fellowship of 1 year can apply to Conrad, HHS, and other types of waivers as well. I think she kind of already answered this with the previous question, but if you have a fellowship, you can apply. You just, HHS would be the one you would be unlikely to want to apply. And actually, no, if you have already completed a 1 year fellowship, you cannot apply for HHS. So your options would be Conrad, DRA, ARC, O1, and is that it?
Yeah, VA, all of the other waivers. HHS is the only one that restricts you on fellowship.
Yeah. Okay.
When searching for jobs, what's the best way to ask the hospital if the job is J1 waiver eligible? Should it be asked straight away? I would say yes. Ask it right away, and just frankly ask it in those terms. What you might do, just so you are a little bit educated on your call, is again go out to that hrsa.org, and if you know the physical location, like type that in, get your results so that you have that there in front of you, and you can pose the question as hey, I did a little bit of research on my own going to hrsa.gov. I see that you are medically underserved location. Are you accepting J1 eligible physicians, something along those lines? But yeah, I would be pretty straightforward with it and asking it up front, because unfortunately I know that we've encountered situations where people have called in and got all the way through. It's crazy how far you can get in the interview process sometimes, and the J1 part isn't brought up or isn't asked or isn't addressed, and it's just so much wasted time and resources on your end. I would hate for that to happen to you. So that's how I would pose that.
Yeah, and I just want to mention this kind of goes back to the person to asking about like an inexperienced employer. That is a real problem in this world as far as the J1 waiver process. So a lot of employers truly don't know. And so it's really in your best interest to check that HRSA site. The other thing is that a lot of immigration attorneys don't know this information. There are a ton of bad immigration attorneys out there. We've had people we've told you cannot get a job in California, you're a specialist, and their immigration attorney in California tells them they can, and they go through the process, spend a ton of money, only to find out they can't get a job in California. So, there's a real disconnect from the employer and the immigration attorney side. So I know we keep mentioning the HRSA site, but that is one step you can take to ensure that that piece is legit and that employer can support a waiver. It doesn't mean they will, it just means they're eligible. And so a lot of employers, a lot of recruiters you will talk to won't actually even know that piece. So that's something very easy you can do. And again, email Melissa, she can send you the direct link to that. And then the next follow-up question was, I finished residency at the end of June 2023. The visa expires in a month. If by any chance the H-1B approval is not ready, then can I come back to the country on a visitor visa? Melissa, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, a lot of these questions we keep saying, like, talk to your immigration attorney about. I know this is a question that has come up in the past. All of it is so dependent on what's your home country, what's your exact situation. And so again, I would say, like, once you get into that process and you're working with the immigration attorney, that is going to be that would be a go-to question to ask your immigration attorney. I was looking for one of my notes on like the H1B part of it. You can stay in the US once the H-1B visa petition is filed with USCIS. That is coming from an immigration attorney. However, you need to be advised regarding legal status and possible legal consequences if anything goes wrong. So file the H-1B, preferably once the Department of State says that they'll recommend the waiver. And then again, check with your immigration attorney before you leave the country. Just always check with your immigration attorney on these things.
Yeah, I think most generally we have people that are far enough into the process they don't have to leave.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Let's see. Once H-1B approval is ready and I have a start date on August 1st, for whatever reason, if I'm not ready by then, does it affect the visa situation?
it might affect the start date, but not the visa, right?
Yes, I think that's what she's saying. Like if your waiver just isn't fully approved yet, probably. It shouldn't affect the visa. Yeah, I think you're right, Cord. It just affects the start date, which again, most employers are pretty flexible on that. If it's, I mean, that's not your fault that, it's taking however long at those other two levels. So they're usually flexible and can push it back, 30 days or whatever it might be.
Yeah, we have a lot of start dates get pushed back and it's never a problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Fellowship of 1 year can apply to HHS.
So no, so this is a good question. Maybe we're not explaining it well, but so that is one thing to clarify with HHS. Even if you have a year of fellowship, but you want to apply as a primary care, it doesn't matter. You're ineligible. So you can't, it's not about applying for primary care. It's if you have that 1 year fellowship. So if you've completed 1 year of a fellowship, you in no way will be able to do HHS. The same thing goes for some states, even if like, let's say a state only takes 10 specialists and you really want to be in that state, so you will forego your specialty and you choose to work primary care. A lot of states won't let you even work primary care if you're a specialty trained physician just to get into the state. So just be mindful of that. Hopefully that answered the question. Is that how you took it, Melissa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. When searching for jobs, what's the best way to ask the hospital if the job is J1 waiver eligible? Should it be asked straight away? I think did we already answer that?
I think
okay. Yes. If we didn't, yes. Ask it straight away.
Yeah, sometimes people get hesitant to let people know up front if, that they have a J1 waiver they need because they feel like it might deter the employer from pursuing an interview. But you always want to be pretty upfront about that, because if they're not going to take you initially because you're on a J1, they're probably still not going to take you, after a conversation because you're on a J1. So it's just best not to waste anyone's time and certainly not yours, and to be upfront about it.
I moved over to the chat court. We had a question over there. How does the Conrad 30 choose who will be approved if there are more applicants than spots for a particular state? Good question. So this actually happens just about every year in a handful of states. So we'll just take one state, for example. So Connecticut. Connecticut is usually a pretty competitive state who receives more than 30 applications. If Connecticut receives more than 30 applications, what they do, and this is all state specific, so each state has their own guidelines for this, but Connecticut will actually do a lottery system, whereas literally they throw the names in a bucket and it's chose at random, which seems kind of random, but that's just how Connecticut does it. Anymore, I think Connecticut is the only state that does it that way. All of the other states are going to, well, again, each state has their own guidelines, and this is going to be specified on their Department of Health website. So you will be able to clearly find this information. If you, this is also might be some information that we have on the map, but for sure by going to the Department of Health website, you can find that there too. But yeah, it's probably going to be more needs based, right? So they're going to accept all of the applications and then look at the applications as a whole and do it based on needs or other various factors. But yeah, I would encourage you to seek out those details specific to each state. Some states that I'll rattle off real quick that usually receive more than 30 applications would be like Texas, New York, Connecticut, oh gosh, Pennsylvania, Florida for sure. New York and Florida, we have seen reach almost double, like almost 60 applications. So those are two very, very competitive states. And there are other states that get 30 plus applications too. Missouri actually is one of them. I'm located in Missouri. So yeah.
That's where this, and again, we'll continue to update this and make this better, but I mean, you'll see this is where it says Florida and clicked on typically 40 to 60. Florida is actually a lottery. So if they're over 30, unless that's changed. Oh no, actually
Yeah,
there's no
they
longer a lottery.
they changed that a couple of years ago. I think Connecticut and Florida were the only two states that have ever done the lottery, but Florida changed that.
Yeah, again, you guys, this literally changes every year. So,
Yeah.
Melissa, if you have any questions, call us, ask her, Melissa, you'll have her email. She is the person that keeps up to date with all of this. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but again, that's why we stress timing, right? So the faster you get your contract into any state as a general rule, your chances are better. And that's why knowing those open dates is really important, because if you're in a state that's first come, first serve, and you don't submit your application until September, 15th, and the deadline is September 16th, and they have 36 applications, you might not be selected. So it's really important to know your state's open date and get everything submitted on time. And you can find all of that in this map.
Yeah. And that's a good point the court just mentioned too. Like some states are first come, first serve with applications, whereas others will collect all the applications and then after their deadline, they'll review them all. But yeah, there are some first come, first serve. So this next question, where do you go on the hrsa.gov? There's a lot on that website. I actually have the link for you well, let me just chat it to you guys here too. It should be in the follow-up email that you guys will get from our webinar, but I'm going to put it over here in the chat for you.
Melissa, it might be helpful if you go on there and show them what to look for.
Yeah, sure.
And that way I'll let you share your screen.
Yeah, do you guys have if someone has a physical location, like if you have a contract or a specific employer you're looking at, why don't you chat me the address and then I'll share my screen with you guys and I can show you that information real quick. We'll answer this other question while you guys do that. If you sign a contract for primary care during your 1-year fellowship and start the process of HHS during the 1-year fellowship, will you be eligible? That's where there's kind of the exception and you need to talk to the immigration attorney. So that's pretty much what we can say there, but it could be possible. If you complete everything before your fellowship's over, it could be possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me share my screen here. So this is what the criteria that you're going to want to plug in here. And if you guys don't have one, I can just look up an address real quick.
Mizzou.
Yeah. You want to read it off to me, Court?
Yeah, it is. Um, wow, not readily available. So yeah, I guess you can try 230 Jesse Hall, Columbia, Missouri. That might not be the right one.
That's okay. 65203. We'll see. If we hit search, it's probably going to pop up recommendations anyways. Oh, yep, there we go. Sometimes before this screen, it might pop up like have you choose a more specific location, but this one went straight to it. So so this is what you want to look at. So this is showing you a map here. And then there are 4 buckets that you can look at. So the ones that you likely want to be looking at are probably going to be, is this a primary care HPSA? And this says yes. So if you're a primary care physician, if this says yes here, then it should be eligible for you as a J1. If you are specialist or primary care and it says yes for medically underserved area, that's what MUA stands for, then again, yes, this should be eligible for you. There's also mental health. So if you're, mental health provider or dental health provider, those are 2 buckets that you can look at too. But again, just kind of recapping real quick, if I'm a specialist, I want to see a yes here for MUA. If I'm a primary care physician, if there's a yes either or. So this could be yes, and this MUA could be no, or vice versa, and it could still work for a primary care physician. Did that make sense? Cord?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but this is something I would encourage you to look at as you're talking to those employers, right? So that you come in with a little bit of knowledge. This is really, the most that you can do without talking to an immigration attorney and the employer. So this would be your step 1 and go in with a little bit of knowledge there. HPSA scores, I know we talked about that with like the HHS waivers. This is where you can see the HPSA scores too. So just FYI. And that's going to be under the primary care HPSA. That's where you're going to find that HPSA score. Yeah. So use this tool. It is helpful. Let's see. And then she said the organization is Kaiser Permanente in Richmond. Yeah. So I would just, use this tool, figure out which, type in that exact address, see what pops up, and you should have that information for you. Lots of good questions. I think, another one says HPSA primary care, no. Does it say no for MUA as well? If it says no for MUA as well, and we're talking about California, then they're probably, because DRA and ARC are not in California. It's not a VA hospital. Oh, it says yes. So then, yeah, it would be possible. Just feel like I'm talking to myself here. Yeah, if it says yes for MUA, then it should be possible. That's good. Because, yeah, in California, there wouldn't be a whole lot of other options like DRA and ARC.
Yes, for that location, a J1 waiver they are eligible to support a J1 waiver. So doesn't mean they will, it just means they have the ability to support
Right.
a waiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that they are qualified. There's someone you should continue talking to and pursuing if they're interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I briefly said that earlier in the presentation. I think that just because they're eligible doesn't mean they can support it. What we mean by that is like a lot of specific organizations like Kaiser at that Redwood location, maybe their organization might only support one J1 per year. And that information is definitely not out there anywhere. You just need to ask the employer. So they might be MA, they might be able to support, but they might already have signed a J1 for fiscal year 2023, for example. So that's why we say that. All right, Court.
Any other questions? I think we hopefully got them all answered. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys taking the time. Like I said, again, make sure you create a free account and access that J1 information. These are our social handles. We do try to periodically put out tips and updates and just general educational pieces. So if you're on our email list, we do periodically send notifications about states closing, upcoming deadlines. So we do try to keep you as up to date with that as we can. But any questions you have, just feel free to give one of our team members a call.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
All right, have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yep, have a good day.